Hey, this week on the 167, we do some shout outs. We talk about Patrick Mahomes, Taylor Swift, and evangelism. Welcome to the 167.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
Hey, welcome to the 167. I'm Pastor Lucas Motley, and I'm here with our senior pastor, Pastor Rick George.
Seems like you say that every time.
I do.
And I'm just always
Unless
here,
you're on
so-
vacation.
I know. So, hey, it's good to be here, as always.
There you go. And we're here with our youth pastor, YTH youth pastor,
Yes.
Pastor Jake.
Hello. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wife and kids good?
Yeah. Yeah.
Kids singular?
Kids singular.
That's been the show today. Thanks.
Are you a regular on the podcast?
I'm not a regular.
No.
He does not say welcome, Pastor Jake, every time.
Yeah.
So
I can if you want, even if you're not here.
that's okay.
Another person we want to say good morning to is Jared Dunning.
Yeah.
Hi, Jared.
Apparently he felt left out.
Yeah, we shouted out our good friend Alan Vanderschmidt.
And then
And,
it was like, well, what about me? Jared's like, I want to be shouted out.
Yeah, he did. It was cute. We were both wearing black polos, and I mean, it was a moment. So shout out Jared Dunning. He's actually a very faithful listener.
He is.
Loves to-
And those black polos look fabulous on Jared. If you've never seen him in a black polo, you need to, because it makes you look fabulous.
If you would like to meet Jared Dunning, you can come to New Life Community Church on Sunday morning. He might be playing bass.
Maybe.
Slap at the base.
Slap at the bass.
All right.
So if you want a shout out, you can email me at lucas@newlifegardener.com or just write into the show, which by that I mean skywrite it in the air above the church, and we will shout out your name
you go.
here on the podcast. So this week we're continuing our series, What's in It for Me? We're talking about our 5 core values here at New Life Community Church, which are, Jake, see why I can put him on the spot.
We got evangelism, got worship, got discipleship, service,
And
fellowship.
There you
go.
go.
Good.
I told Pastor Rick, for some reason, each time I can only name 4 out of the 5, but it's a different 4 every time.
Yeah.
I'm always like, which one did I miss?
Yeah.
But yeah, so this week we're doing evangelism. This coming Sunday we'll be doing discipleship, and then we're going to move on to worship.
Yep.
So this week we're talking about evangelism, which our saying about evangelism, Pastor Rick, is
An empty, how does it go? An empty, something about a
an
seat.
empty crown sits lonely on the throne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An empty seat is an empty seat.
Yeah.
It's a
No, an
place
empty
to set
seat-
your Bible.
Yeah. So an empty seat is a serious matter.
Yeah.
So every empty seat is a big deal because it's a person. Like that is a person who you care about, I care about, and they should be sitting in that chair.
Which I get to explain this every time I teach Step 1, which we did this past week. We teach Step 1, which is our kind of our membership class, how to get to know us about the church. And I always tell everybody we're not a denominational church. So we don't get a cookie for our attendance record. Like, we don't report our attendance to anybody. So when we say an empty seat is a serious matter, it's the personal part of it, because we don't have a pope or a bishop or anything like that, that we have to report to and then say, and they're like, good job on your attendance record. And,
Yeah. So it's just really about, hey, this place is special to me. I've encountered God here. I have friends here. This is an incredible church that's doing incredible things, and I want my friends to be here with me. That's all. That's evangelism. The people that I care about who don't know Jesus, the people that I love that aren't going to church, who aren't worshiping, like I love them enough that I want them to experience what I've experienced. Again, that's evangelism.
Well, and I wanted to ask you guys about that. So what was a time early in your life that you remember that was like maybe one of the first times or an early time where you actually got to evangelize somebody, you got to share the gospel with somebody?
When I was in high school, I was still attending the Catholic Church. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna share the gospel with people. And it turns out I really didn't know what I was doing at that point. I was using like a lot of the the Christianese words, and I probably just made it more confusing for people. But
Do you have a second to talk about your propitiation for
right. So, I mean, I tried, but as I got into college, me and some people from KU, we were Christians, and we were like, let's just go out and make a point every week to share the gospel with somebody. So during lunch, we would go and share. We would use the bridge to salvation, where you draw out the picture, God over here, we're over here, and Jesus is the bridge. So we did that, and a lot of times people were just like not interested at all. Some people were, yeah, that's fine, thanks, but don't pray for me or anything. Like,
good to know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please do not pray for me.
but one day I ran into somebody who I actually had gone to high school with, and I hadn't seen him in a few years. I didn't even know he was going to KU, and I was like, I feel like I need to share the gospel with him. So I did, and for him, he grew up in a non-religious household. He was atheist, and I had known that, and he had a similar response as Penn Jillette did, where he was like, I don't know if I believe in God, but I really appreciate you sharing it with me, because if you believe that this is true, like, you love me enough, you care about me enough to share that with me.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
That's some of my experience.
Yeah. Yeah, so I believe that the most effective evangelism, not the only, but the most effective, is the friendship evangelism. It's based out of relationship. I care about you. I love you. I'm concerned. And so I just want to share my faith with you. That doesn't eliminate the need and the necessity to go to people that you don't really know and witness to them and evangelize them, but it's generally less effective, right? So going back through the years, I've had all kinds of different experience. I went through a phase just because it was something that was way back when, 35 years ago, 40 years ago. There was a big movement of the tracts, the gospel tracts that had little cartoons in them, or
Looks like a dollar bill.
yeah, just little things, that would eye catchers. And so I went through that phase where I would just, leave them on the table at a restaurant, or hand them to somebody at a store and just say, hey, I'm praying for you. Do you want this? And that kind of outreach and evangelism. Went through a phase where you go to a public restroom and you kind of unroll the toilet paper, then you stick one of those and you roll the toilet paper back up.
I've never heard of that.
Oh, really? And
Sounds
then,
like a great idea.
yeah. And then so when you have a captive audience, sitting and they're doing their business, and then they take the toilet paper out, and it's like, oh, look, somebody loves me enough to tell me about Jesus here in this moment. And so
Now
then
I
there's-
really want to put TVs in our bathroom stalls, so when people sit down and be like, do you have a minute to talk about my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?
like I said, there's ineffective ways to evangelize, and then there are more effective ways, but there are multiple ways. And so, again, going back, friendship evangelism is what I think is kind of the most effective. So I look back over my life, and there have been times when I've developed relationships with people outside the church, and have just developed that, told them about my faith. So the most recent of those that comes to mind is when I started working out at a fitness place here in Gardner. And the first day I walked in, there were two guys in there chatting. They were friends. I didn't know them. I didn't even know what to do to start working out. I just heard them talking about this workout plan that they were ready to start the next day. And I just walked up and said, hey, this is my first day in this gym, and I heard you guys talking, and I don't want to just butt right in, but I need some help. And they're like, oh yeah, you can work out with us. And I became friends with those two guys. We worked out every day together. They became, they were already friends, but they welcomed me in. We had dinner together. We invited them to our home. I was able to share my faith with them. They started attending church. I was able to walk through the death of a spouse with one of them. The other one has become part of our church and has recently moved, so they're not attending as closely as they once did, but still very connected to our church, a blessing to our church. And yeah, so that all happened because of a relationship that I built. And when I started that relationship, I had two goals in mind. One, to lose weight, right, and to get stronger, because I had let myself go and I was, if you think I'm fat now, you should have seen me then. And I weighed like 245 pounds and like it was bad. So I wanted to lose weight, wanted to get stronger. And then when I met those two guys, it was like, I want them to know Jesus. I want to be their friend and I want them to be a friend of Jesus. And so I just kind of wove faith into a lot of the conversations that we had.
That's good. Yeah, I've been told actually that it's as simple as ABC. That you just
I
have
heard that
to-
one time. Is that?
Yeah,
Did you make
I've heard
that up?
that.
Is that like you've always said that, right?
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I just
No, I've so internalized that I could probably do it by heart. But I agree. I think the friend thing is probably, I think, my most preferred method. I think I remember graduating kind of to. I grew up small town. I started being friends with these kids. They have some church background, but not really. And so we start to become friends, and it's just like, hey, come to youth group, come to church, come to youth group, come to church, come to youth group, come to church. And like when you're a kid, you're just like, oh, I will just bring this person to church, and my pastor, who was my dad at the time, he will take it from there. The Sunday school teachers will do it. So it's somebody else's responsibility, but it's my responsibility to bring them to church. And I think that's where some people are at, is just like, I want to invite my friend to church. Versus, like I said, that I feel like I graduated to that where it's like, oh, now we're having spiritual conversations. And I think it wasn't really till my senior year of high school that I actually presented the gospel to, like sat down with my friend and said, no, this is absolutely real. Jesus died for you, and he, wants you to follow him, and this is what that means. And he got baptized, and he's still in ministry today. But I think that I went through those progressions of like, I don't really know what to do. I like, when you're talking about sharing your faith at campus, I see these things that are like apologetics where I'm like, oh, this is what the gospel is, where you stand down on the street corner and just like argue with people. And it's like,
yeah.
The relationship aspect is so much better to just walk through that with people and, just kind of, like you said, have spiritual conversations, be there in a time of crisis. And,
Yeah, kudos to the people who stand on the corner with a bullhorn and like kudos to you and those confrontational kinds of people that just get barraged with insults and and they're just saying, hey, Jesus loves you, and people are spitting on them. It's like, hey,
well, it's
kudos to you. That's not
that's
not my vibe.
You have apologetics, which is, I think, what a lot of Christians think evangelism is, where you stand on the street corner and yell at people with a bullhorn. And I really admire those people. Like, they purposely, not, it's a different thing, but like, I'll see, videos of people where they're like, they go to a rally, they go to a witch parade, like they're going to like this, place where it is literally enemy territory, and they just walk up to people and ask, can I pray for you? Jesus loves you. Can I pray for you? And, people are like, no, absolutely not. And they'll spit on them. And I'm like, but at least that is like a, you're not arguing with somebody. You're actually trying to minister to them. Right. But
yeah,
you don't have to do that. You can just go to work. And
yeah. And so people, I think sometimes wonder, so what makes one church different than another church, and why? And so just a little bit of, why we do what we do here. So we try to provide a worship experience on a Sunday morning that is enjoyable, that is engaging, that is challenging, that's going to speak to you and challenge your faith, that's going to help you see Jesus a little more clearly, right? And that's fun. Like, we want it to be a fun place, a relational place, a learning place, and all of those are intentional, so that when I'm out talking with my friend, like, I don't have to be a trained evangelist. All I have to say is, dude, you should come to my church. Like, it is so fun. Or it is, like, the music is so incredible. Like, you wouldn't believe. And I was like, really? Tell me. Like, oh, yeah. It's like, and then you start to explain what your encounter, and yes, it's a very superficial kind of low-level entry of, but that's why we do it. So you can say, it's awesome. You should come check it out. And you don't have to have a lot of answers. Just, hey, I found a great place to eat. I don't know how they make the food. I don't know where the food comes from. I just know it's incredible. You want to go to dinner with me? Yes. That's all it is.
Yeah, we have the things with youth, like once a month or so, we'll have an invite night where we might have like Chick-fil-A, and students are encouraged to invite a friend, and they might come for the Chick-fil-A, but they hear the gospel.
Yeah.
It's not about the Chick-fil-A.
Well,
I'm
I'm going to come.
chicken.
When is the next Chick-fil-A night? I'll be there.
Gospel chickens.
You can invite me. I'll come to.
Yeah.
I'll be a guest.
I mean, Chick-fil-A is a spiritual experience.
It is.
But it's all about inviting. Just come and see and hear the gospel.
So, yep, perfect.
Yeah, there's a variety of things to do that. This week you were preaching, and this is, I think kind of at the heart of a lot of this stuff with evangelism. You were preaching on Luke 14, and it's the parable of dinner, which I love. It's like the parable of the Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, and Jesus said, "I've got Chick-fil-A right here for you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says a man was giving a big dinner. He ordered it from Chick-fil-A. There was a little crumble cookie. And he invited many. And at the dinner hour, he sent his slaves to say to those who had been invited, "Come, for everything is ready now." But they all alike began to make excuses, and I love these. The first one said, "I have bought a piece of land and I need to go look at it." Like he's just going to go stand in a field. Looks good.
Yeah.
Like,
Good.
and it's another said, "I have bought 5 yoke of oxen and I'm going to go try them out. Please consider me excused." And another one said, "I've married a wife and for that reason, I cannot come." That's like, which is so funny because I'm like, I got to go check with my wife. No, we're not going to do that. And then the slave came back and reported to his master, and the head of the household became angry. He said, "Go out then once into the streets and the lanes and the cities and bring in here the poor and the crippled and the blind and the lame." And the slave said, "Master, what you've commanded has been done, and there is still room." And the master said, "Go to the slave, go out into the highways and along the hedges and compel them to come, so that my house may be filled. For I tell you, none of those men were invited shall taste my dinner."
Yeah. So, a little context there. So the invitations were sent out well in advance, and everybody was like, "Count me in. Yes, sounds awesome. I want to be there. I'll come on Sunday. I'll be there for your dinner. I'm on board." Until actual day came, right? So they RSVP'd, and they're like, "Yep, I'm there." And then the master's like, "All right, all the food's ready."
Well, I feel like that is a cultural thing now. I always laugh at my I have a young adults life group, and I'll always text and be like, "Hey, who's coming this weekend?" And then 10 minutes before group, "I'm coming. And I'm just like, I feel like you just waited to see if you got a better offer and nothing came up. And so now you're in, and so now we're scrambling. But like that, it's not even about I didn't get a better offer. I'm going to go stand in a field.
Yeah.
Well, and so in that text, though, it doesn't say it, clearly, but you can almost read between the lines somewhat that when he says, "All right, the people that I invited didn't come. Now, go find your crew. The lame, the broken, the people that the people that live near you, the people that weren't on the invite list at first, but them, like the people that should be here. I just didn't know them. You go find your people." And so he goes and gets his people, and he's like, "All right, that's all I know." He's like, "All right, now get the bullhorn, go further, fill the house, man.
Yeah.
We got room."
And that's probably happened where if somebody if Patrick Mahomes, who lives in KC, and he's like invited his teammates to a house party, none of them came, and all of a sudden some chauffeur or whatever comes to you and says, "Hey, Patrick Mahomes wants you to come to his house." It's an open invitation to anybody. Not only am I coming, but I'm probably going to tell somebody else and bring a friend.
Exactly. Or flip that. So again, shout out to Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes, if you listen to the 167, you can email me at Lucas.
We're shouting out. So it's whatever. So Patrick Mahomes is going to be at New Life on Sunday. Do you think the house would be full?
Probably.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it'd be like, what? So is it possible that Patrick Mahomes will be here on Sunday? Well,
anything's possible.
It's possible. They don't have a game this Sunday. The season doesn't start. It's a holiday weekend. Perhaps he's going to just drop in. Like if people thought, "Oh, he's going to be there," the house would be full. Like it's just so we live in this culture where, "Oh, a better offer. Like, this is great. I want to get close. Jesus is going to be in the house. We're going to have an incredible church. You're going to have an encounter with the living God. And we have a service planned for you to have that encounter. We're like, yeah, I think it's the holiday. We're going to sleep in. We're going to run down to Hillsdale Lake. We're going to do something else. Yeah, we don't care. It's just a weird vibe.
Yeah, and we read that and we look at those lame excuses and we're like, what? That's ridiculous. But then we have people who it's raining and they won't come to church because of the rain.
Yeah.
So it's a real thing.
So yeah, if you would invite your friend to come see Patrick Mahomes
I'm
at
sorry.
church.
Every time people are like, it's raining outside, I'm like, all I can think about is the Wicked Witch of the West. And I'm like, I don't like what that implies.
Yeah. But if you
I'm
would invite
melting.
them to see some celebrity, why wouldn't you invite them to come? Like, so it's just a mindset. We just have to. I have to get better. Like, I'm not great at it. It's not like I'm the greatest evangelist. So I need to do better at reaching out and saying, hey, and I care about you. I'd love to have you come to church.
Well, and I think one of the interesting things that jump out about that is that they had to go twice. It's like, well, we invited everybody in the city. Like, how many spots were there available, and how many people turned that down? And it's just like, it's always the people that you least expect. And I think one of the most powerful testimonies that you can do with evangelism. I remember my my evangelism pastor. He actually taught evangelism. It was called DOPE, Dynamics of Personal Evangelism. And he would always say the gospel message is one beggar telling another beggar where to find bread. It was a pretty common phrase back then. And it is this. It's like he tells his slaves, go find, like, that's kind of what you're alluding to. Go find these people who are beggars and who are, who are low status people. And it's them going, there's a free party with food and, and if somebody goes there and you taste and see that it's good, you're going to go out and say, hey, come back, come with me. And I think that is probably one of the strongest testimonies is when your life changes and somebody looks at you and says, you're different. What happened?
Yeah.
It's like, it's one thing to be in a friendship. If you jump into a friendship with a non-believer and so then you start, I want to fit in, so I'm just going to swear and I'm going to do whatever they're going to do. Who cares? But if they want what you have, that is a completely different conversation because now they're actually asking for it. If you walked out of there with a turkey leg out of that party and said, where'd you get that? This rich guy is throwing this party.
We've actually seen that on the Gardner cross country team. There's a student who has been coming to church and is just a faithful follower of Christ and lives that out. And somebody on the cross country team saw that and he was like, what's different? And he told him about Jesus and that person got saved. And now there's like this trickle down effect that's happening in our cross country team just because of that.
Yeah. It's, I had somebody say, but I don't think you want my friends to come. Like I have a friend group. You probably don't want them to be here. It's not going to look good, for the reputation of the church. It's not the
highways and the byways. It's the underpasses.
So they actually said, I don't want to ruin our reputation. And I said, well, it's too late. Or we don't have a good reputation. Like we've welcomed all kinds of people. So if you're ever worried about, I probably shouldn't bring that friend. No, you should.
Absolutely.
Like those are the ones that Jesus said. It's not the people who are well it's the people that are sick. This is a hospital. It's an ER. If someone's bleeding out, get them here. We don't care what they're like, man. We just get them cleaned up, saved, serving Jesus, and then send them back out to their friends.
The people who will tithe their cigarettes.
Exactly.
10%. You tied down to your mint and your cumin and your tobacco.
And I had one of our deacons say, I've been counting our offering for years. I've never found weed or cigarettes. And so if you're listening, there you go.
Thank God for little blessings.
Yeah.
No, I would just say, as we're kind of wrapping up and closing, if somebody said, hey, I want to be more effective at evangelism, I don't really know what I'm doing, what is the thing that you would tell them? Like, if you just do this, it'll help you. What's your advice to them?
Know that at the end of the day, it's not you who does the saving. It, like, you can share the gospel, but have grace on yourself if people reject it. Like, only Jesus can save. But I have some some methods that you can use practically, like I said, the bridge to salvation. Look up things like that. The Romans Road, the gospel journey, where every word of gospel spells out a part of the gospel. There's the four, where there's four symbols. The heart, which stands for God loves you. The division sign, our sin separates us. It creates that division. The cross, Jesus paid that penalty for our sin. And then the question mark is, are you ready to follow Jesus? Just very practical things. Look into those to help share the gospel, because gospel literally means good news.
Yep.
And in good news, we want to share it.
Yeah. So those are all awesome, excellent resources. So if you want to be equipped, find those things, email us, ask. We can get those resources in your hand. Or there's this new thing called the
Google.
The Google.
The Google.
Yeah. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of it.
Really? Like I just discovered it. It's pretty awesome. You can the Google it. Is that how you say it?
Yeah,
you can
I
the
think so.
Google.
You googly.
The Googs.
Whatever.
The Googs.
The Googs. So, and then you can find all that information right there. But it doesn't have to be that in depth, right? So it is simply what Lucas just said a moment ago. It's simply one beggar telling another beggar where the food is. So in some ways, an effective approach is just change your mindset, right? Let God renew your mind. And instead of, oh, I have this huge responsibility to speak into this person's life and tell them everything there is to know about God and be part of the spiritual journey, a little shift in mindset to say, no, I just have to tell them about this awesome restaurant, right? So you go to some, chop house, and it was an amazing meal. Like, you don't lead with, hey, it's going to cost you $250 to go there. You lead with, I had this amazing meal. Like, it was incredible. They're like, where'd you go? And so you tell them, I went to this steakhouse, or I went to this, and it was the best steak I ever had. And they're like, well, I want to know more about it. And then, like, you don't have to explain how it was made or where it came from and all the details. You just have to share your experience, and it's compelling.
Right, because at the end of the day, you can share the gospel. People can debate God's existence or debate the validity of the Bible, but you can't debate someone's personal experience and their personal testimony.
So if you're passionate, just share your passion with somebody.
And again, I would kind of conclude this, because it's also going to set up this week where we're going to talk about discipleship. But I would say that, like, if it's very effective, when someone says, I'm hungry for Mexican food, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this restaurant. So if somebody says, I don't know, I've been kind of depressed. Oh my goodness, I was depressed in it. But if somebody says, you were depressed and you don't look depressed anymore, like, if you actually are changing, if you're
Living
growing
it
and
out.
changing,
Yep.
and somebody is asking you about it, you didn't have to do anything. You just have to answer their questions.
Yeah.
And so I would say one of the best things that you can do is take your faith seriously and kind of grow, ask God to change you, and then be vocal about that change.
Yeah. So again, staying with that food analogy, I was going to say that, like, we never think about telling someone about a restaurant. I'm not going to tell them because I don't know if they're going to understand all the spices, and they're probably never going to become a chef, and they'll never know how to fix all that stuff. And so it's not even worth telling them, because they're not going to mature into this food connoisseur. Like, no, just
Here's how you make a grilled cheese.
Yeah, you should try this food. It's amazing.
So last question, parting shots, because, by the way, Patrick Mahomes most likely will not be at our church.
Really? We could be.
We could
What?
serve Whataburger and see if it happened, just waft it in the air. But if Travis Kelce was at Life Mission and Patrick Mahomes was at New Life Community Church, where would you go?
Well, I would come here.
Tay could be at
Yeah,
Life Mission.
I would come here.
I would come here.
Is it
Actually,
because
yeah.
you're
Good
employed?
answer.
Because you said Taylor Swift
Yeah.
would probably.
Yeah,
Like,
good.
I don't know, I want to avoid
Yeah.
that. All right, guys, thanks for joining us at the 167. Shout us out, tag us, like us on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. wherever
Ring
you
that
get
bell
podcasts.
or
Ring
whatever
the
you
bell.
do.
Subscribe. Well, we'll see you here next week. If you enjoyed this episode of the 167, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, get notified, leave a 5-star rating and a positive review. Tell all your friends to listen as well. Make sure you go over to newlifegardener.com and check out all that we have to offer as a church, and check out our messages online as well. Thanks for listening.